There are several new developments into the investigation into the poison attack on a Russian ex-spy and his daughter. Britain is now strongly suggesting the blame lies directly with Vladimir Putin. At the same time, the probe into the death of another Russian in the UK has taken a new turn. The CBC's Thomas Degla is on the story in London. So, Thomas, how surprising do you think it is that the British are pointing the finger directly at Putin?
I don't think it's entirely surprising, Andrew, given that Prime Minister Theresa May here has taken a stand against Putin before. And just this week, she said that the way Putin was acting was tragic. This is, however, the first time that a government official here points the finger directly at Putin in relation to the poisoning of the former double agent, Sergei Skripal, and his daughter, Yulia. You'll recall a public inquiry here found that the killing of another former Russian spy, Alexander Litvinenko, a decade ago was likely approved by Putin himself. Today, this was Britain's Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, speaking at a joint press conference with the Polish foreign minister. Here he is accusing Putin of being involved. Have a listen.
Our quarrel is with Putin's Kremlin and with his decision, and we think it overwhelmingly likely that it was his decision to direct the use of a nerve agent on the streets of the UK, on the streets of Europe, for the first time since the Second World War. That is why we're at odds with Russia.
The Kremlin's spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, responded pretty quickly with this today. He said, "Any reference or mention of our president in this regard is a shocking and unforgivable breach of diplomatic rules of decent behavior." And by the way, Andrew, Britain today is still waiting to hear when and if, indeed, Russia will expel British diplomats, which, in fact, it has promised to do.
And compounding all of this, there is news about the death of another Russian living in the UK. Tell us about that.
Yes, he was 68 years old. Nikolay Glushkov was a Russian businessman here living in London. He was also, crucially, an associate of a prominent Putin critic, Boris Berezovsky, who was found dead in England in 2013. Now, that death was deemed a suicide, but Glushkov, who you see there on screen, he never bought that explanation. So Glushkov's body was found at his home on Monday, and Scotland Yard's Counter-Terrorism Command has said today that an autopsy has now revealed that Glushkov was indeed murdered. The cause of death, they say, was compression to the neck. British authorities are not linking Glushkov's murder to the poisoning that we've been talking about of the Skripals last week. But earlier today, Russian investigators announced that they would look into both incidents. The Russians called Glushkov's deaths, called it a murder, while Scotland Yard would only say it was unexplained. So it sure looks like today Moscow forced the police here to acknowledge that this was a murder, perhaps earlier than they would have liked. Andrew.
All right, Thomas, thank you. The CBC's Thomas Degg in London.